everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I have a very special video to film. So, as you may or may not know, Books and Lala is one of my favorite booktubers ever, and in the beginning of 2021 she set out a challenge, a BuzzWord-a-thon challenge, where every month you have to read one or more books that have a certain word on the title. And I decided to challenge myself with this, and this video is how it went. I'm going to talk about the books I read for BuzzWord-a-thon. So, for January 2021, the word was dream. And so I read, or at least attempted to read, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. And unfortunately, I did not like it, and I DNF'd it about 30% through, because the writing style was not my thing, and that's fine. I like DNFing books when I'm not enjoying the book, because I believe that we shouldn't waste our time reading books that we don't enjoy, and we should focus on books that we do actually enjoy. And I think I'm gonna watch the movie of this, Blade Runner, someday, because I truly think that it is a story that will mostly better work as a movie, because everything described will be on the screen, visual, and I think that will work best. All right, for February, we have a color, and I decided to read The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. I had been wanting to read by Toni Morrison because she's considered one of the best American authors, and I did want to read Beloved, which is her most famous novel, first, but because of BuzzWord-a-thon, I read The Bluest Eye first, which I'm not mad about, because I did really like this book. It's about a girl who is black, but her vision of beauty is being white, having, a white skin, blonde hair, and blue eyes, and that's why the title of the book is The Bluest Eye. This is a very, postmodern book, and Toni Morrison herself is considered kind of a postmodern author, because she doesn't follow traditional novel structure and form and stuff like that. So it was interesting to read a book like this. It's very different from traditional novels, and I do highly recommend it if you want to get into, modern and postmodern texts. Okay, so for March, oh my god, we have another DNF. There was time as the word for the month, and I read The Devil All the Time by Donald Pollock, I think that's the author. I think the mistake I did was I picked up the audiobook, and the audiobook has very strong southern accents, even though it takes place in southern Ohio, and I've not gone to southern Ohio before. I do live in Ohio, but I did not grow up in Ohio, and I live in Cleveland, so northeast Ohio. I've been living here in 3 years, and my accent, it's not a Midwestern accent, I think, because I grew up in Europe, so I think my accent is a mix of a lot of different accents, because I watched a lot of YouTube, and I watched British people, I watched Australian people, I watched American people, I watched people who spoke English as a second language, so I think my accent is a mix of all of those, not the place where I grew up in. But yeah, I did not like the accent of the audiobook, so maybe, again, I will watch the movie of this, but I still haven't, which just goes to show I'm not really interested in this. So, anyway, moving on. The fourth book for April was about space and galaxy terms, and I read Orbiting Jupiter, which has nothing to do with space or the galaxy, because Jupiter is a character, is not actually referring to the planet. But anyways, this book was very short, and I did finish this one, and it's about a kid who's 14, but he has a child, which is very crazy. And when I first started reading, I thought maybe it's an adoptive situation, maybe it is some sort of metaphorical thing, but no, it's actually his biological kid, and I was like, what the fuck? Anyways, this book is kind of torture porn, which I do agree with, and it's very sad. It gets very sad in the end, but I think it is an interesting reading experience. And actually, this was kind of a recommendation from Lala herself, so thank you, Kayla. Number 5, we have the May book, which actually turned out to be my favorite book of the year, so again, thanks, Lala, for doing this. It was In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado because of the word house in the title. And oh my god, I talked about this in my favorite books of the year video, but it was truly a masterpiece. It's a memoir written like a horror book. It has horror and fairy tale tropes. It is narrated by the author herself on the audiobook, and it's her experience, but also her researching abusive relationships in queer couples throughout history, which was, oh my god, wonderful. I highly recommend this book. It is so good, and I can't wait to read more by Carmen Maria Machado in the future, because I can't wait. Okay, for June, it was names and titles, and I actually read 3 books. I didn't plan to read 3 books, I only planned to read 1, but they just happened because names of books are very common, so I ended up reading 3 books. And those were Piranesi, Forgive Me, Leonard Peacock, and Anne of Green Gables, the graphic novel. All of them I did really enjoy. 2 of them ended up in my favorite books of the year, which if you watch the video, you already know which ones they are. Piranesi is a fantasy novel, but it's a literary fantasy, and it also won the Women's Prize, which I think is so well deserved, because fantasy never wins in literary awards. But the fact that this one won makes my heart so happy, because fantasy is and can be very educational. It can open a lot of conversations, but because it's fantasy, people don't take it seriously. But this time they did take it seriously, and I'm so glad that they did take it seriously. And then Leonard Peacock is a YA book. I don't usually read YA because honestly, I don't vibe with it anymore. But this one was actually good, and it did talk about mental health a lot, and suicide and other important and difficult topics to talk about, and I think this was done very well. And the audiobook for this is also very good because the narrator actually sounds like a teenager, which we love to see. And Anne of Green Gables, the graphic novel, was something I just picked up on a whim on Hoopla, because this summer I discovered a lot of Hoopla graphic novels, and this was one of them, and I did enjoy it, but I did think it was kind of rushed because it tried to pack so many of the Anne of Green Gables stories in one small graphic novel, so I did think it was kind of like rushed. I do recommend reading the source material because Anne of Green Gables is one of my favorite books of all time, and I do think it deserves the hype. So until June, things had gone very well. I had read or at least attempted a book for every month. But then, in July, the word was last, and I didn't read anything, because I didn't have anything in my TBR at the time that had the word last, so I didn't read anything, sorry. And then for number 8, we had A Time of Day. And I stretched this a lot, because it's not really a time of day. But anyway, I read Breakfast at Tiffany's by Truman Capote. And I know breakfast is not actually time's a meal. The breakfast time is the time of the day. It's the morning. So I did stretch this a little bit. I'm sorry, but also I'm not sorry. And again, this was one of those things that I should have watched the movie instead, because I do think the movie is probably better. But I did want to see what the book was like, and I did not like the book. So maybe one day I will watch the movie, but not anytime soon. And then again, in September, the word was dark, and I did plan to read After Dark by Haruki Murakami, but number 1, I was not in the mood for it. Number 2, I was so busy with school, and so I just didn't read it. And I didn't read anything with dark on the title. So, I'm sorry. And then number 10, we have October, and we had Elements. I did happen to read 2 books here, and the first one was DNF. And it's Diary of an Oxygen Thief by Anonymous. We don't know who the author is, which is interesting. But this book was so bad. It has so many typos. I just decided to DNF it. I could not stand the typos. And just in general, the content is not great. Like, the book opens up with a man saying, "I've always wanted to hurt women," or something like that. And I was like, But and then I was a little bit interested, but then the more I read, the more I was not interested, and it was not enjoyable at all. So I just like, we're just gonna put this aside. I don't want to spend my time reading this psychopath's diary. And then a book that I did actually enjoy was The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. So if you don't know, I first read Coraline when I was 12 years old by Neil Gaiman, and I absolutely loved it. It's still one of my favorite books of all time, and the movie is also a masterpiece. Both the movie and the book are masterpieces, and they both complement each other. Wonderful, perfect, amazing. But then when I came here in America, I tried out Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman, and I did not like it. It's one of his adult books, and I actually do not recommend it. It's not that interesting. And then about a year later, I tried out The Ocean at the End of the Lane, and I DNF'd this as well because I did not like it. But I think the problem was I picked it at the wrong time. So this year, I decided to pick it up again, and I actually did enjoy it a lot. Not as much as Coraline. Like, Coraline is like top tier amazingness, okay? It can scare adults. That's how creepy it is. But this one was more different, I think. And it's an interesting story. And I think you shouldn't know anything about it. Just go into it blind. Because weird things happen. Very, very weird things happen. And the ending is also quite, interesting. It's a short book, so when you pick up a short book, I think it's better if you don't know anything. And this is one of those books. But I will be reading Neil Gaiman in the future because I have a little more hope now that he can write other good books apart from Coraline. And, okay. November, we had Lost. And honestly, with Lost, I didn't have anything in my TBR that had the word Lost. Like, for Last, I did have books, but I just didn't read them. Or for Dark, I did have a book, and I didn't read it. But for Lost, it was so hard for me to find a book that I was interested in and that I could read, you know? But I didn't have one, and I just didn't read one. So, moving on to December. And December, again, is a stretch. So I'm sorry, but also not sorry, because Lala said we can bend the rules, and I did just that. The prompt was day, month, or season, or something like that. And this is not actually like a day, but it's like a part of the day, and this is the word night. And I read Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Melinda Lowe. I could have read this for last, but I just wasn't in the mood to read this in July. I wanted to read it in December, and I did it in December. So if you want, pretend I read this in July, and we'll be good. But wow, this book is so good. Again, it's a YA that is actually good. And it's about 1950s, and we have the main character, Lily, who is discovering her sexuality and is slowly understanding that she's actually a lesbian. And she goes to this lesbian bar called the Telegraph Club with her friend Kath. And oh my god, wonderful. I am looking to read more books that are with FF rep, with female relationships, because I feel like a lot of books today, or just in general in the past, have been with male relationships and not with female relationships, and I do want to see myself and others represented more, and this was very good representation, and I really liked it. So yeah, that's how BuzzWordathon 2021 went. It was a lot of fun. I did find out a lot of new favorites, like In the Dream House, Bernessi, Leonard Peacock, and I did DNF a bunch of books as well, but that's fine, because that's how it goes sometimes. And I am gonna do a BuzzWordathon again in 2022, so I'm excited about that as well. So I'll see you guys next time, which who knows when will next time be. But again, bye!